Hello, and welcome to another episode of FPC Talks. We are a downtown church in the heart of Huntington, West Virginia. Actually, if you are trying to locate us, we are in fact just across the street and about a block down from the Cabell County Public Library. Now, if you'd like to meet someone, my very special guest today, who can give you exact directions to where that is, today we have Miss Judy Rule, Director of the Cabell County Public Library System. Miss Rule has been with the library for many years, decades in fact. She's been the director since about 1980-something, nearly 40 years. Miss Rule has worked tirelessly in her career to maintain and promote the libraries, and our very own library in particular has become a major draw for the community of Huntington. My goal with this interview is to get to know Ms. Rule a little better, but also to highlight how the library system works with this church as well as other downtown churches and our mission partners to boost the quality of life for the residents of the community of Huntington. Judy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let's get started a little bit with your background. So where is your hometown?
The mailing address for where I grew up was Belva. Okay. And Belva was a wide spot in the road, and it had a service station, a post office, and a tavern. And I lived about 2 miles from there.
Wow.
But I lived in the country. And that is located in Fayette County, West Virginia. So I grew up in West Virginia.
Fayette County. What's your educational background?
I went to Gawley Bridge, elementary and high school. Had the same bus driver all 12 years who, boy, the children don't know how lucky they have it today, because Mr. Martin really made us toe the line. You loaded from the back, 3 boys on one side and girls on the other, 3 in a seat. But anyway, I graduated from Gawley Bridge, and I went to Concord College, and I got my bachelor's degree there. And while I was there, I worked in the library as a part-time job. And I learned in high school, though, that I liked the library, but I'll get to that probably later. One of the librarians at Concord said, if you really want to make this a career, go on and get your library degree. It's a master's degree in library science. And I got an assistantship at Indiana University, and I worked as a cataloger in the elementary school library. Learned that I did not want to be a cataloger, but I still loved the library, and I graduated from Indiana University. I started in September, I finished in August, and then I started here September 5th. Didn't have really good sense in those days. Maybe I still don't, but nevertheless, I didn't have anywhere to live, and I was to start work, and it was over Labor Day. So it was a interesting time, but I found the Lord provided a place for me to stay with people that friends of ours in Ashland knew.
That's great. That's wonderful. When you said in high school you thought about libraries, but I asked this question when you were very young, when you're little and you say, I want to be what I want to grow up. When you were very young, did you think that you would one day be a library director for the major library in our system, in our state?
Never in 1,000 years. In fact, when I started here, I didn't even think that. But when I was growing up, we didn't have a library anywhere. The bookmobile came to Gawley Bridge.
Okay.
And I would walk down off the hill from the high school, 435 steps down the hill, to visit the bookmobile. And while I was at Concord, I spent a summer working on the bookmobile, just volunteering. But I grew up without a public library available. When I went to high school, they did have a school library, and I volunteered and worked, had a study hall, and worked in the library during that time. And that's when I decided I really like this. I'd always thought I wanted to be a nurse. And my father always told me, "Don't do that, Judy, you're too rough." So anyway, I decided on librarianship, and that's where I ended up.
So let's move on to, I guess, when you started at the Cabell County Public Library, you started to mention about when you got back from Concord. So when was that?
I graduated from Concord in '66, and I graduated from IU in August of '67.
I'm sorry, you said IU. Yeah.
It took me a year to get my library degree, but of course I went to school full time during that.
Right.
You know, it's a lot different than people who work full time and take classes. But anyway, I did get my library degree. And then I started to work here September 5th, 1967. So I've been here over 50 years.
Yeah. What was it like in the beginning?
We were in the Carnegie Library across the street, and
a beautiful building.
It's a beautiful building, but back in those days, we didn't have air conditioning. We had big fans running. I worked on the main floor of the library, which was the adult services department. The children's department was in the basement, and the reference collection was upstairs on the second floor of the library. And it was so hot during even after we started. Of course, it started the 1st of September, and we usually have some pretty hot weather even after that. Right. And the next summer, I remember a lady that worked here. I would leave the department and go out, all the fans were running, and I'd go out to lunch, and I'd come back, and the fans were all turned off. She turned them off because they messed up her hair. Oh, no. And we turned the fans back on. And eventually they put window air conditioners in that building, and that made it more palatable to work there. But I love that old library. I was sad to move off and leave it, but it was so nice to have room to be able to do what we wanted to do.
Right. I actually, I didn't include a question about that, but you told me once a funny story about moving from the previous Carnegie Library over to the new library now. So.
Well, the residents of the city of Huntington really stepped up, and we were closed for 2 weeks, and we moved all the books from one library to the other on one Saturday.
These are thousands and
thousands of books. They all made it to their right shelf, maybe not in the right order in the shelf, I won't guarantee that, right. But all of them made their way across the street. It was really interesting because the old library, the air conditioning worked fine. The new library, the air conditioning broke down, the elevator broke down. It was an interesting day. But we had over 600 volunteers that day. And we put books in boxes, and they carried them across the street. Wow. And so, but I don't know, my mother used to tell me many hands make light work. And that there's supposedly, according to her, a Chinese proverb that says a sheet of paper is lighter if 2 people handle it. And so when you have lots of help, even a big job is doable.
Sure. That's great. What, in your own words, is the mission of the library as it relates to the community?
We're here to support the educational, recreational, and informational needs of our community. And we work with the Board of Education very closely to provide, and we have a new project going on now to get all the students in Cabell County schools library cards so they can use the public library and our digital resources. And then we have recreation. We have story hours, and the youth services does wonderful programming for the young people, but we also have very interesting programs for adults. We've had several History Alive programs. They're informational, but they're fun.
Right.
And then we'll talk a little bit later about information and referral. One of the things that we decided that libraries were to be information places, but it wasn't only information that was in books that was important, but it was information about the community that is also important, and that's the role that information and referral fills in our library.
Wonderful. How does the Cabell County Public Library help to support those branches? Or well, first of all, there are satellite branches for the community.
We have seven. Cabell County. There's one public library in Cabell County. Now, there are 7 branches. Gallagher, Gandod, and West Huntington are in the city limits of Huntington, along with the main library. But we also have libraries at Cox Landing, Milton, Barbersville, Salt Rock. And all of those libraries are part of the Cabell County Public Library. In West Virginia, if a library is not run by a professional librarian, and that is somebody with that 5th-year master's degree, if it's not run by them, they're assigned to what is known as a service center library. And we are a service center library for what is known as Western Counties Regional Library. Western Counties Region includes Mason, Putnam, Wayne, Mingo, and Logan. And then we also work with Lincoln, although they are not an affiliate library. They haven't been assigned to us because they do have a director that has her master's in library science. So, but we help them. Just recently, I've been working with the budgets for most of the counties because I help prepare the budget for the coming year for each of those libraries. We fill out the forms that are required by the state. We visit them 4 times a year. That's one of the requirements that we have to meet. And we try to attend 1 board meeting a year. Some of them I attend more. It depends on the level of need in that county, how much time and effort that we put into it. We are their fiscal agent for most of the libraries. We're the fiscal agent. We're not the fiscal agent for Mason, but we pay all the bills for Wayne and Mingo and Putnam, pretty much. They have a bank account, and they occasionally pay a bill, and they write us a check every other month. But nevertheless, we pay the routine bills for all of those libraries and do payroll. Pardon me. We do payroll, and that's a big thing, burden off of them. We even do the payroll for Lincoln County because we have probably 150 or 160 people on our payroll.
Right.
85 of them are staff at Cabell County Public Library. But so if you're doing a payroll for 140, to do a payroll for 150 is not that much difference. So it was easy to add Lincoln County on, and it wasn't all that much more work for Christy, who's our business manager, but it saved them a lot of work because we have to file all the forms and reports to the state.
Right. Great. So shifting gears a little bit, how are the churches in Huntington connected to the library?
Well, years ago, in the library world, there were 5 large libraries. Detroit, I believe San Francisco was one. There was one in one of the, maybe in Dallas, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, they established a information and referral section of their library. And when I learned about that at ALA, and I
American
thought,
Library, or
that's the American Library Association. Mm-hmm. Yes, I
mm-hmm.
do speak library-ese. And I thought, well, we can do that. So we put together a group of people. The churches were involved. A United Way was involved. The Extension Service was involved. Marshall was involved. And we put together a board and we organized information and referral. The person who really started that was Harmony Phillips. And Harmony House, that exists today, was named after Harmony Phillips. But we decided that there was no listing of all the social service agencies in the community, and there needed to be one. So she, on 3x5 cards, which we loved in those days.
Can you say when, maybe around the time frame this is? When?
I would say it was in the late 80s.
Okay.
Yeah, probably.
Mm-hmm. So 3x5 cards you were saying about?
Yeah. I remember when I went to library school, even at Indiana University, we were taken on a tour over to the computer lab, and they told us, these computers are going to be used in a library one day. And we thought, oh, yeah, right. Yeah. But, here we are.
There we are, yep. Wow, so more about the information referral. Why is this needed? Why is information?
Well, we provided information from books, so we wanted to provide information about our community. So everybody runs into, they don't know who to call or where to call to get assistance, whether it's putting a parent or a loved one in a nursing home, whether it's finding help filling out for food stamps, whether it doesn't make any difference what social service that you're using. You can call information and referral, and they will refer you to the proper place to give you help. We're told over and over again, I've been to several places and nobody has known where to send me so that I can get the help that I need. So that's the idea. And originally, we did not offer any direct service at all. Mm-hmm. That has somewhat changed over the years. We do have some FEMA money that we dispense through information and referral. And just recently, we have received a grant for COVID money that came into the city of Huntington in the amount of $370,000.
That's fabulous.
So this will go toward helping people who, because of COVID, cannot pay their rent or are behind in their utilities or whatever. So if somebody finds themselves in that instance, they need to contact INR. Now, it's a federal grant, so there's a lot of paperwork, and we don't believe anything anybody says about it, so until they prove it to us. So we do have to have absolute proof, and you can't double dip. You can't get paid by one pot of COVID money and then get paid again out of the other pot of COVID money. So we will do everything in our power to make sure that these people haven't received other assistance that would negate their eligibility for this money. But that's going to be a lot of money, so if you know anybody who needs it, this will be available when this first airs, and it'll be available in 21 to 22, 2021 to 2022.
And I was going to say this later, but in the description of this video, you can find information to contact the library. We'll get to that too, but there'll be some information down below. We're in First Presbyterian Church here. How does the library help First Presbyterian Church serve the community?
Well, one of the reasons that we started INR was John Lewis worked with Extension Service, and he said the purpose of INR is to help the needy and not the greedy. One of the things that we found was people would go down Fifth Avenue, and there are lots of churches along, and they'd go in and tell the same sad story to every church and get a handout. And the churches then would run out when somebody that truly needed it would come by. So our purpose was we keep records of who has received help, and people cannot double dip and hit up every church. And the churches have been really helpful in that they require a voucher from INR saying that this person is eligible to receive their services. Of course, Information and Referral knows what services you have. The food next door
Cridlin.
We have the Cridlin Pantry,
Cridlin Food Pantry,
Pantry at Trinity, and we refer people there all the time. At least we did before COVID. So things haven't gotten back to quite normal yet.
I'm pretty sure I'm correct. Every year, this church hosts a major Christmas Day dinner in person, except for last Christmas, obviously, but in person, and we serve 250 people in person.
Yeah.
But we also do meal deliveries on Christmas Day, and if I'm not mistaken, that a lot of people can sign up for those deliveries through
We do
INR.
Christmas baskets, and we do Thanksgiving baskets, and make sure that one family doesn't get 6 baskets.
Yeah, yeah, I see. So you might have already answered this. I asked you how the library helps First Presbyterian, but how does First Presbyterian help the library with the library services?
Well, they're always good to announce anything that we have going on. Also, First Presbyterian has provided us with several good employees over the years. Francie Roberts Buchanan is one of them. She worked with Information and Referral and built it to what it is today for over 40 years. So we appreciate the people that have come to us and worked with us from First Presbyterian.
That's great. We've talked a lot about INR, and I think I want to ask about another program at the library, adult literacy. How long has the library provided an adult literacy program?
I can probably tell you whether we offer the adult literacy program or whether something has been done But when it comes to telling exactly how long it's been, I can't keep up with the dates.
A lot of things going on, yeah.
Too many. Unless something happened, I remember the date that I started because I've had to repeat that so many times. But, but somewhere, one of the things that information and referral did was when they found places in the community where there was services lacking. So branches probably got started because information and referral found out that there was no place for battered, generally speaking, women. They were also active with establishing the food bank. Francie served on their board for years. One of the women in the community, Ruth Thompson, had read an article or read about a literacy program in another place. And she said, I would like to do that. And she came to the library, and we established the Tri-State Literacy Council with her help and with other people's help. And it still operates out of the library. We provide some funding for it. We provide a place for them to be, and then they use the libraries as tutoring places. They teach adults. It's not a school help program, although we have done that as well. We've had homework help for children. But this is an adult literacy program for people who can't read very well and have a goal in mind to improve their reading. Sometimes they just want to read better. Sometimes they want to read well enough so they can get their CDL license or something of that sort. And they will attend and it's one-on-one tutoring. That it's usually done in the library because that's a good, safe place, or one of the libraries. It's not all the main library, it's one of the branches and so forth. But we also will train tutors, for instance, at Goodwill, because they come in touch with people who need better literacy skills. We do a good bit in reference, teaching people to be, this is library, more computer literate. But the Tri-State Literacy Council works sometimes with computers as well. But generally speaking, their emphasis is one-on-one. And it could be English as a second language too.
Oh, okay.
So we do. They work with people who English is not their first language.
Let's talk a little bit about youth services now. So, how does the library engage with? Let's start preschool children and their families.
Well, we have story time for them. A lot of the preschool groups will bring the children to the library on a regular basis for story time. And we read stories to them. They can check out books. And then we have just open story time in all of our branches, or at least we did before COVID, but we're coming back to that. And we have started, now we're trying to be careful so that we don't endanger anybody's health, but nevertheless, we are working our way back to having story time. And now we can rather ask people to sign up so we can monitor how many are coming so that they can be socially distanced and so forth. But we teach children, I say that schools teach children to read, and we teach them to love to read.
That's great.
And so that's what we try to do and enjoy to instill in children, even very small children, a love of books. We've had several programs, 1,000 books by kindergarten, where children will read 1,000 books before they get to kindergarten. Now, you can believe that they do well, Nick, when they get to kindergarten.
Yeah. I'm still working on number 400. No. What about teenagers and adolescents?
We work with those. We did Battle of the Books for several years. Nitsa Uslan came to this community. Her husband, Mark, came with the Foundation for the Blind, and she was, somebody introduced me and said, she's a librarian, Judy, and so it just so happened we needed a youth services librarian. And she had done a program called Battle of the Books, and sometimes teenagers are very hard to recruit to the library, but nevertheless, we started this Battle of the Books, and we had to break it up into 2 different levels, and we did not get to do it last year, and we're not doing it again this year, but we may go back to that next time, because when we have the Battle of the Books, each branch will have its team, and then they come together and are asked questions about the books that they read. Sometimes they've read 10 books, sometimes it's 6 books, but then the moderator asks them questions, and the team that wins, it's not an individual winning, but it's a team.
So it's like a kind of like a game.
It's a game.
Yeah, great.
And the thing that always amazed me is that it seems like that girls are easier to win over to read books than boys, but we had lots of boys that enjoyed the competition and attended the Battle of the Books, and our meeting room would be packed and jammed.
That's great. That's wonderful. At the present time, the Cabell County Library is working on a project to build a new building in this is Barbersville, West Virginia. So it's just to describe to some of the listeners, if you're not from the area, but Huntington is kind of the metropolitan area. Barbersville is a village of Barbersville next to us, but there's a branch of the library there, and currently you're working to build a new facility in that location.
Barbersville Library is the most heavily used of any of the branches. Their circulation pre-COVID was probably twice what any of the other branches were.
I see.
Milton sometimes would come pretty close, but Barbersville in the last few years had outstripped them. But anyway, the building that they're currently occupying was completed the year that I came here. In fact, the month after I started, it was opened in October of 1967.
Wow.
Which is not all that long ago for a building. However, we've had some problems with the building. Water problems where the drainage system from the roof ran under the middle of the library and the tile pipe collapsed. So the water came up through the floor. And then there was a parking lot built, and the water runoff from that caused leaky, wet floor over and over and over again. One summer before last, we had lots and lots of problems in that building with mold, and we discarded several books because they had gotten mold on them, and there's really nothing to do with books once they get mold. So also we participate with the schools in the accelerated reading program, and in that program the children have to take a test about the books that they read, and the libraries are a testing site for that. They can come to the library and take their test and then get credit for having read the book. Well, there aren't enough computers at Barboursville to fulfill that need. They would have to wait to get on a computer. And so the new library will have we're planning twice as many computers, not only and there will be twice as much room.
Mm-hmm.
The building is going up. It will be finished in September or October of this year.
That's fabulous. That's great.
The steel is supposed to be going up as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
And once it goes in and they get the second floor, it will be a 2-story building. I'm unhappy that we have to put an elevator in the building, mm-hmm. but the site was given to us by the village of Barboursville, and to get the 14,000 square foot that we needed, we had to have 2 floors. There will be more parking. There will be about 18 to 20 spaces for parking. The building itself it's going to be really interesting in that it will be the first geothermal library in West Virginia.
Wow. Okay.
And we'll have solar panels, and we will have a charging station for electric cars. Right. So we are with it. It's going to cost around $6.5 million to build.
I was getting ready to ask. I mean, are you going to get any kind of public funding from the state or from any public funding?
Well, little. There is no. We have asked the legislature for some time. 3 years ago, they established a building fund with the West Virginia Library Commission, and we have asked them to put $10 million in that building fund. They haven't put any money in it yet.
Mm-hmm. I see.
It's just an empty bucket there. It took us 3 years to get the bucket, mm-hmm. much less get any money toward it. I was kind of hoping that maybe this year, since there's a surplus, we might get some money put in that building fund. But there is no money for construction on the state level. There is no money for construction on the federal level, although there is a bill being introduced in Congress that would build America's libraries, and it would be for construction and renovation. Oh, wow. So that would be wonderful if it goes through. The library board voted to go into debt with the County Commission Building Authority the library board seems to have had no authority to borrow money. So the building authority had to borrow it, but we will be responsible for it. The library will. We are involved in a fundraising campaign. We got a $400,000 grant from the National Endowment for the Humanities, but it requires $1,200,000 to match that. It requires a 3-to-1 match. So we're still working on that $1.2 million to match. Money that is ours cannot be used to match it. We can't use other federal money to match it. But so it has to be local money. It could be state money, but we haven't gotten any state money. So we are working toward that match. And one of the new initiatives that we've just started is a giving tree that will be placed inside the library at Barboursville. This tree will be on a wall, and if anyone wants to buy a leaf, they may do so. The leaves are $300, $600, or $1,000. They're bronze, silver, and gold. And so that, for smaller donations, if somebody has more to give and would like to have a room named after them, we have some naming opportunities there as well. sometimes people have donated and put their husband's name in memory of their husband, or in memory. And one lady donated in honor of her children because they had gone to the story hour at the Barbersville Library for years. So we have various opportunities, and all you need to do is go to the Cabell County Library's website, and you will find how to donate.
Yeah, and I do want to mention again, there'll be some contact information in the description, or hey, you're on YouTube right now, Google Cabell County Public Libraries.
That's right.
If you're interested in supporting the Barbersville Library Project, we would love to have your support. If
Most
you're able.
happy.
Yes. So, with your vast experience and successful years as a director in mind, what would you like to see for the future of the library within the community?
The thing that right immediately that I would like to see is us return to more normal use of the library. People have been afraid to come in. We have been open to the public since June 1st in the main.
Sure.
We were closed for a week with the ice storm, but nevertheless, but we have been open to the public, but people are using the drive-up, which is wonderful, and the branch libraries, if you would call the library, they will put your books in a bag and take them out to you. But that's not the same as coming into the library and choosing your own materials. Sure. And so I was told today by one of the people that work at the circulation desk that our numbers do keep going up. And when we first opened, before the coronavirus hit, we would have 500-600 people through the main library doors every day. After we opened, it was 100, maybe 150 on a really busy day. But generally speaking, it's up to 160 now on a regular day, and sometimes bumps up even more than that. But we will open June 1st until 8:30 on Monday evening. We've been closed in the evening.
Those were the original hours, I suppose.
That's correct.
Up to 8:30.
So we're slowly but surely getting back to normal.
Sure.
And I would like to see. It's interesting, however, the numbers of people coming in went way down. The number of books used and the digital materials that we circulated have maintained pretty well. They didn't take such a nosedive. So people are still using the services. They're just not coming into our buildings. But we all want to see people. We like to see people.
Yes.
And we want people to start coming back. We're starting some programming, in-person programming. I keep saying that we're taking baby steps toward getting back to normal.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. Well, one last question. We're in our church here, and I do want to ask you just briefly about the topic of faith. And you are a lifelong Christian, and I just want to ask you if any or what role does your faith play in your work at the library?
Oh, it's a major part of who I am.
Sure.
I know that I'm in a Presbyterian church, but I do have to say that I'm a Baptist, a lifelong Baptist. But anyway, I do turn to God's Word whenever I need picked up. People have been terribly afraid during the coronavirus, and the staff could not understand when I would tell them that I'm not afraid. I read recently that there are 2 rules in life. Mm-hmm. Rule number 1 is God is in control. And rule number 2 is refer to rule number 1. I really like that. So that's good. The other thing that I fall back on is the verse in the Bible that says, I can do all things through Christ who strengtheneth me. If somebody would say, Judy, you've got to raise $6 million, I would have given up and crawled away. But we can build this library. We will build this library. The debt will be paid off, and we can do it. I can do anything when the Lord's on my side.
And that's a wonderful message. And I appreciate you sharing that with us. Ms. Rule, I really appreciate you being on the program today. And thank you to the viewers for watching. If you like this interview, please check out, first of all, check out our description. There's going to be a link for the library. There's going to be a link for our website, which is hopefully going to be brand new really soon too. But also check out the previous episodes of our series FPC Talks, as well as the church services on our channel. And leave us a comment. Reach out. Let us know what you think. Would you like to see more programs like this, more community-based programs? Also, get in touch with the library here in Huntington, or if you live far away, get in touch with your library in your area. Let them know you appreciate what they do for your community, and go there. I put go there in bold. Check out books. It's free entertainment. It's free, and you'll probably learn something along the way. Judy, may the Lord bless you and your work. Thank you for being a pillar to the community, and may He bless you and your loved ones for many years to come. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.